I'm Russ Mitchell. Tonight, the deadliest day for firefighters since 9/11, as a South Carolina warehouse collapses in flames.
9 brave, heroic, courageous firefighters of the city of Charleston have perished.
Also tonight, more deadly bombings in Baghdad as the U.S. surge intensifies. And we'll have more about the abused orphans rescued by U.S. and Iraqi soldiers. Headaches for summer travelers as the passport office still can't get it right. And a new threat to the greatest monuments around the world. There may not be much anyone can do about it.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening. Katie is off tonight. We're beginning this evening with a tragic reminder of the risk firefighters all over the country take every day to protect us and our property. 56 have died this year alone, 9 of them just last night as they fought a massive fire in a furniture showroom and warehouse in Charleston, South Carolina. The roof of the nearly 30,000 square foot showroom collapsed, killing the 9 men. The biggest single loss of life for firefighters since 343 were killed in New York on 9/11. And tonight, Charleston is in shock. We have 2 reports, beginning with Kelly Kobiea.
It was so quick, so violent, that witnesses say more than a dozen firefighters inside had no warning the roof of this furniture store was about to come crashing down.
When it collapsed, it was just a huge ball of fire and a huge cloud of smoke, and from then on, it was just panic.
Daniel Shahib saw it all, arriving in time to help pull fire hoses to the burning building.
It sounds like they were just overwhelmed.
They were absolutely overwhelmed. It was the biggest fire.
So much so that fire officials didn't know how many they had lost until the early hours of the morning. 9 firefighters in all, with 131 years of experience between them.
We were not going to leave until we found all 9.
It's not yet clear how the store, packed wall to wall with furniture, caught fire in the first place. But witnesses could still see firefighters among the burning lamps and tables inside. Outside, fire crews were smashing in windows when the glass began to blow out on its own from the intense heat and pressure. 10 minutes later, the roof came down and a tower of flames shot up more than 100 feet in the air. 9 were dead. Remarkably, at least 7 firefighters made it out alive.
This time yesterday, they were firefighters. This time today, they are heroic, historic figures.
In this small southern town, 9 deaths touched just about everyone. Lewis Mulkey wasn't just a firefighter, he was a high school basketball coach and substitute teacher.
He served as a father figure for a lot of our young men who needed that. He was just an all-around good fella.
Station number 10 lost 3 men who used to train on Lorraine and Frank Henkel's land nearby.
It is extremely hard. I don't know of anyone that isn't upset over this, and it's going to take a while for us to ever get over this.
Investigators will now try to figure out how and why this fire started, but they say arson is not on the list of possibilities. This was an older building with no fire sprinkler system. The fire chief says sprinklers would have helped slow the fire, but when asked if they could have saved lives, he wouldn't answer. Kelly Kobiea, CBS News, Charleston, South Carolina.
This is John Blackstone in San Francisco, where the city's firefighters in routine training today say facing danger never means ignoring the risk.
It's a risk-benefit sort of analysis there. It's just an unsafe job. It's just what we do.
In training, firefighters try to equip themselves to balance the risk and rewards. This New York State drill gives a close-up look at the tough job inside a burning building, searching for people who may be trapped. Flames, smoke, and water make a chaotic, blinding mixture as firefighters move on their knees, uncertain what they might find around the next corner.
They're exposed to extreme heat. They're exposed to very, very dense smoke, sometimes so dense that you cannot see the hand in front of your face. At the same time, these products of combustion are all deadly and toxic.
What's burning these days adds to the challenge, firefighters say.
Compared to the materials that I grew up with, cotton, fabric, wood, in the year 2007, we have petroleum-based products that are producing about twice the amount of energy.
Every time a firefighter dies, it can provide a lesson for others. Lessons were learned from a huge 1999 warehouse blaze in Worcester, Massachusetts. Inside the empty, abandoned building, 6 firefighters got lost and died. An investigation showed shortcomings in planning and equipment.
A modern world is creating some hazards on the fire ground that firefighters need to remain aware of and understand the hazards of what we're getting involved with.
As a rule, firefighters spend far more time training than they actually do fighting fires. Still, no amount of training can ever reduce the risk of this job to 0. John Blackstone, CBS News, San Francisco.
In Iraq today, a huge force of 10,000 American soldiers went on the hunt for al-Qaeda terrorists in Diyala province, northeast of Baghdad. It is one of the largest offensives since the U.S. invasion in 2003. But while that was happening, a Shiite mosque came under attack in Baghdad, killing scores of worshippers and bystanders. More on that from our chief foreign correspondent, Lara Logan.
The sheer size of this bomb made clear the murderous intent behind it. A truck loaded with gas canisters and half a ton of explosives blew apart the outside wall of the oldest Shiite mosque in Baghdad and brought concrete crashing down on the people below. At least 78 were killed, but more bodies were thought to be buried under the mountains of rubble. As smoke billowed into the air, it was chaos on the streets below. The blast tore through cars and shattered windows, just days after a citywide curfew here was lifted. This man who witnessed the enormous blast said he didn't know how he wasn't killed. But it was at a nearby hospital where the scale of human destruction was most apparent. The injuries were massive, with some victims suffering 100% burns, their clothes literally blown off their bodies. The wounded kept pouring in, overwhelming the doctors, more than 200 in all. And with Iraq's hospitals already in a desperate state, many are expected to die. This kind of major attack against civilians is exactly what U.S. troops in Baghdad have been trying to stop. It came just as they began a major offensive against al-Qaeda about 30 miles north of the capital in Baquba. The U.S. military released these photographs of suspected terrorists detained by troops during the first day of Operation Arrowhead Ripper and said they killed about 22 militants in the first few hours of fighting. Just before sunset in Baghdad, explosions echoed around the fortified Green Zone, which came under one of the heaviest attacks in weeks. The barrage of mortars was aimed at the U.S. Embassy compound and the Iraqi Prime Minister's office, striking right at the heart of a government that is seriously under threat. Russ?
Lara, there was reaction around the world today to your story last night on the horrors of that orphanage in Baghdad where 24 boys were rescued by U.S. and Iraqi forces. I understand you have an update for us.
That's right, Russ. Even here, in a country that sees tragedy every single day, this story has really caused shockwaves because the photographs are so distressing. To see these emaciated boys, as they were when U.S. and Iraqi soldiers found them, lying naked in their own waste, tied down and literally starving to death. They were rescued by the 82nd Airborne from a government-run orphanage for special needs children. And right down the hallway, there was a kitchen that was packed with food and piles of brand new clothing that could have been given to these boys. Instead, the soldiers believed that the adults in charge there were actually selling these at the local market. And today we showed our report to the Iraqi Inspector General for the Health Ministry, and he was clearly stunned by what he saw.
Any sin, we believe, is forgiven except to harm the orphans. The orphans is something holy, you can't touch them. And these people treated them in such way.
Tonight, this was a big story on Arab TV channels with excerpts of our report being shown over and over. And this will only put more pressure on the Iraqi government, which has already ordered 2 separate investigations.
I assure you, the people who were there, they're going to be arrested and going to be punished.
The Inspector General promised to keep us updated on those investigations and said at least one of them may wrap up as early as tomorrow, Russ.
Lara Logan in Baghdad, thank you, and we'll look forward to your report tomorrow. Some viewers have been asking how they can help the orphans. We have that information at cbsnews.com. And now to the Palestinian crisis. In Washington today, President Bush and Israeli Prime Minister Omer pledged to support the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Meeting at the White House, they called Abbas the leader of all the Palestinians. But right now, his government controls only the West Bank. Gaza fell to the radical group Hamas last week after several days of fierce fighting. Here at home, a political bombshell tonight, a major defection from the Republican Party. New York's popular mayor Michael Bloomberg announced he is leaving the GOP and will now be unaffiliated. There has been speculation Bloomberg might run for president as an independent. There is much more CBS News straight ahead. They are some of the most popular tourist attractions in the world. But if you want to see them, you better not wait. We'll tell you why. But up next, getting to those attractions this summer could be a real challenge. The passport mess and why you might not be able to get on the plane. A massive backlog of passport applications is threatening summer travel plans for many Americans. Today, a Senate committee wanted answers. It all began when the State Department adopted new rules requiring passports for travel to Mexico, Canada, and the Caribbean. Now, 500,000 applications are still pending. Nancy Cordes has our story.
If you want to find a U.S. passport office, just look for the line.
Ridiculous.
In Los Angeles, it snaked around the block today.
10 o'clock.
In New York, 2 lines wrapped in different directions.
Everybody has to come back tomorrow.
In Miami, it was shorter, but only because they turned people away. All this nearly 2 weeks after the government tried to ease the passport backlog, relaxing a new security rule mandating that Americans show passports when flying to neighboring countries.
The State Department had anticipated that the new rules would cause a surge in applications. It hired hundreds of extra workers to process them, even opened extra call centers. But it wasn't enough.
Passport turnaround times slipped from 6 weeks to 12 and longer. Road paver John Bortner applied for his daughter's passports back in March. Today, he skipped work to wait outside the Washington, D.C. office.
But you're still getting paid today, right?
No.
I am.
I'm taking crusade.
Really?
Yeah. No work, no pay.
Today, U.S. senators demanded to know why they're being deluged with calls from frantic travelers.
I'm very concerned because it's yet again another story of the complete failure of competence in government.
Here's what confused travelers need to know. Until September, Americans flying to Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean don't need a passport, but must show proof that they have applied for one. Americans driving or cruising to those countries won't need a passport until June of 2009. The State Department says its processing centers are on overdrive, but that's not fast enough to get everyone online to their summer destinations. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, Washington.
Parts of northern Texas were declared disaster areas today in the wake of deadly flooding. The waters have receded now, but in the city of Gainesville, rescue teams, search dogs, and National Guard helicopters were out looking for people who are still missing. Mark Strassman has our report.
When you get past the bridge, the debris is unreal.
On swollen waterways, Texas game wardens today searched for flood victims. 3 people were missing, 2 of them small girls.
And especially when you go to recovering a small child, if that's the case here, yeah, it affects you. It's hard.
Searchers later found one of the missing girls. She was just 2 years old. Her 5-year-old sister and grandmother also drowned. After yesterday's flooding, at least 6 Texans are now confirmed dead. Today, Gainesville's ground search was door to door, knocking down doors when necessary to get answers. Pamela Woods lost nearly everything and still considers herself lucky.
A lot of people cry and complain over furniture or a washed away house when they don't understand or realize that a mom lost their children.
Little Kylie and Joshua are both fine. To their parents, that's all that matters. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Gainesville, Texas.
Some top U.S. scientists warned today of flooding that could threaten civilization as global warming melts the polar ice caps. Their report says the situation is even more dire than the UN predicted in February. That report said sea levels could rise by about 16 inches by the end of this century. Today's report says the oceans could rise by as much as 10 feet unless we dramatically cut greenhouse gas emissions over the next 10 years. And as the Earth warms, we stand to lose some of our most treasured monuments. Mark Phillips has more about that in our series, Saving the World.
The stress climate change can have on people is beginning to be felt.
But a new international study has warned there may be other victims as well.
This one, you can see it's leaning.
From the rising waters of Venice to the ancient temples of Greece to the archaeological grandeur of Rome and to more modern wonders, global warming may hasten the destruction of some of the world's most treasured buildings and heritage sites.
The building is that canary in the mine that we can see and appreciate in terms of the change.
And that canary is beginning to look decidedly ill. The study concluded that higher temperatures and humidity will speed up the corrosion of the Eiffel Tower's ironwork, for example. And the warm, moist, salty air will attack the fine stonework on buildings from the Parthenon to the Tower of London to Westminster Abbey.
So what we will get within 100 years is the fine detailing on buildings being lost.
Including the fine stone carving and the other things that make these monuments what they are.
Yes, absolutely.
The damage, the report's authors say, may in fact go much deeper and affect the very structure of the buildings.
And it will produce on the masonry and within the building material fracture and degradation of the material itself.
The point of this new study is that climate change may not only threaten our future, it may also threaten some of the most inspiring and important touchstones of our past. And we may have to choose which of these monuments we try to preserve and which we allow to crumble and be lost forever.
The notion that we can save everything for all time is, I think, one that we have to seriously think about because it is unrealistic.
You think we cannot save these?
We cannot.
The message, see 'em now. Within 50 to 100 years, treasures that have lasted for centuries may look very different or not be there at all. Mark Phillips, CBS News, London.
Up next this Tuesday, the American Spirit. We'll show you a man who's teaching kids how to aim really high. We are ending tonight with a real-life guardian angel, a man who is taking kids in need under his wings and giving them a pair of their own. National correspondent Byron Pitts now with the American Spirit.
Very cool. As a journalist, I've had my share of helicopter rides, but none like this.
Notice your hands aren't under control right now. I'm not flying. That's all him.
The pilot on the left isn't simply small, he's 11. Student pilot James Knox.
What do your friends say about you, James the pilot?
Some of them don't believe me, and most of them don't believe that I can fly.
Believe it, even if his legs are too short to reach the pedals. In most places, 11-year-old James would be unique, but not here.
We're going to take off at 65 knots.
Here at tomorrow's Aeronautical Museum in Compton, California. One of the most violent cities in America, where more than 50 gangs battle over turf. But this space belongs to Robin Petgrave.
A lot of programs say we want to get kids off the streets. We get them off the streets, about 1,000 feet above the streets.
45 years old, Petgrave is a Hollywood stunt pilot. He turned a $300 investment into a $3.5 million helicopter company. And then he sold it all to build this.
We start to make them think that there is nothing they can't do.
Many of Petgrave's 800 kids have learned to fly helicopters and planes. 4 students have set 7 world flying records, including a 14-year-old who became the youngest to solo a helicopter and plane in one day. Corporate partners like Boeing help provide the know-how, and surviving members of the legendary Tuskegee Airmen provide the inspiration. Those World War II pilots who proved blacks could fly planes and help save the world.
I tear up all the time just looking at them. They are getting a chance to do something that nobody believed they could do.
I know which way to go. Guess which way I'm going to go.
You're going to be all the way.
He preaches a message of sweat equity and self-determination to school kids across the country. In exchange for community service, Petgraves pays the kids $5 an hour, which can be used for $100 flying lessons or college tuition.
The kids really blow me away with some of the things that they come and they talk to me about. Some of the improvements, some of the life choices that they've now turned to a positive route instead of the direction they were going.
Hey, McCarthy, come here.
Take 13-year-old Diamond Hooper.
I used to get suspended all the time and stuff like that.
And now?
Now I stopped doing that because Robin, he told me that I can do better than that. My first hero out of all people will be Robin.
Can you duplicate this kind of program across the country? I mean, not every kid wants to fly a helicopter.
No, and that's the beauty about this is we're not trying to make everybody a pilot. We're just trying to enable them to do whatever they want.
Thanks to one man's vision, this place is far more than a hangout. It's a place for young people to hold on to their dreams. Byron Pitts, CBS News, Compton.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. Katie's back tomorrow. I'm Russ Mitchell in New York. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you again first thing in the morning on The Early Show. Good night.